Hi, welcome to Forum. We have a lot of bad news these days. Everybody's hearing doom and gloom. You go on the TV and you listen to the radio and your friends, and it can be overwhelming. And people, we all try to respond to this in some ways that are unusual. Times are different, the way we shop, the masks we wear, and of course, internationally, everybody's going through something like this. So we can get the feeling of it's too much, it's hopeless. We hear people losing their jobs, which is sad. And it's true, people are suffering. On the other hand, there is good news happening. And the Forum wants to bring you some good news. There are people who are looking at what is and thinking about how it could be or should be. Is the problem simply out there, unsolvable, fixed, or can I and you do something about it? Can we change the way we view things? Can we change the direction of not only now, our lives, our friends and family, our jobs, but as we move forward? So we have our guest today in the launch of our online series Forum, one of those people who have and has and is making choices to look at what is and deciding things could be different. During the conversation with our guest, we invite you to comment. We have the place where there is a text issue and you can simply ask questions, comments, and so on, and we'll pick them up at the end because we will have that conversation and the opportunity to talk to our guest. She is SARINA CONDELLO. Now, how do I describe SARINA? I think everybody wrestles with this one. Somebody said, and just before we went on, they said, oh, she is probably the most generous entrepreneur on earth. I think that's interesting. I think she also said, which is interesting, that this is the opportunity. She does so many things. She rarely steps back and actually talks about herself this way. So in her words, slightly altered, we're going to get a backstage look in her mind, how she views things, what decisions she's made. You could say she's a dancer, a choreographer, film director, TV host, founder of an amazing charity, which we'll hear about, founder of 3 community theater groups, and on and on. And what she's doing now and what she's done then and where the future holds, we're going to find out. I'd like to welcome an amazing, fun woman with a spirit of play that is infectious, SARINA CONDELLO. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark. I'm most honored, and thank you for that incredible introduction.
You're welcome. Well, I think you would have to, as I said, an encyclopedia to kind of follow things. But it's interesting because when people look over the whole of your life and people look over their lives, is there any kind of thread? And we're going to find out what that thread is, because obviously you're going and have gone through different ups and downs, haven't we all? But let's start right now. They'd say the elephant in the room, which I guess you could say the virus in the room, hopefully not your room or others that are watching. If you had to describe in a word or a phrase your response right now to this time and place, what would you say?
Centered and most authentic. I feel that this unfortunate predicament has given me space to ground myself in a way that I haven't done since I was a child. And I actually feel grateful for this moment in time, but my heart, of course, breaks for the suffering that so many people are enduring at this present time.
Is this by nature? You were always like this, or is it by choice?
That's a good question.
No, it's an important question, I think, because we're all sitting with this situation. And is it a question of character? Is it a question of, say, heredity, genes, viewpoint, or are there like actual choices that we make when we look out at what we see?
I think my disposition is a positive and gregarious one. And I think at my core, I have a resiliency that has been passed down through my own ancestry, whether it was the Italian or the Ukrainian or the Hungarian lineage that makes me who I am. But I also think I choose to embrace reality, surrender to what is, and then find this space around it. That moment I surrender to the reality because reality rules, so I don't run away from it, I then can have a space to freely express myself. So I never, ever deny or turn my back on reality. It rules.
Wow.
But I choose to shift and transcend and transmute what needs to bring me to my highest state of being and the overall wellness for my family and to my community. So I'm always making choices. How can I provide the best experience for all who I touch?
Well, let's take it from the beginning, because honestly, as you described, choices and changing realities, which is a beautiful way to look at it. We can agree with how things are, we can disagree. And whether you're an entrepreneur, an artist, my goodness, business person, man, woman, mother at home, it doesn't matter. There are points of challenge and points where the impossible rules, so it appears. And then there's that possibility. So the question that is interesting to me, coming from the arts originally and so on, a dancer, talk about freelance, talk about risk. You start as a dancer, choreographer, and you didn't stay there. I always admire the artist for having to kind of confront making a living, being freely to express their inner self, to transform others through their magic. But the dancer became a whole other thing. And was there a point just in that level, as we look back, that you went, there's more? I'm doing it because I know artists are suffering now. They're difficult. People can't sing because the stages aren't there. Broadway's closed. You have that circumstance. So how does the dancer see another reality, to put your words? Going back to when that moment might have been where there's more. I can do more. Can you recall that moment?
I really can recall that moment. So I was married for 10 years. And unfortunately, but fortunately, my marriage dissolved. At the present time, I am, I would say, best friends with my former partner and his beautiful wife. And together we actually are a community. It sounds very strange indeed, but it is true. So, however, at the time I went through, I would say, tremendous suffering. I felt very alone. I felt ashamed. I was a young mother of 3 children. I felt so ashamed that I did not tell my nonna, which is my Italian grandmother, for 2 years. I kept our matrimonial phone number when I moved into my new home. So when she called, she would get me and she would never know that I had separated. So when I moved into this tiny but big little Victorian home, I made a powerful choice and I gutted the whole main floor and I built a dance studio. My 3 children, very young at the time, 3, 5, and 7, moved in. And I started to build my life with this big empty space, this room. And I knew this room would be my new fertile ground to discover, to rediscover, to play, to muck about, and to bring community into my life. And I think that is where and when I made the choice. I wanted to take my dance and I wanted to extend it. I wanted to create a hub, so to speak, a center, a place where there could be meeting of the minds and hearts, where I could gather my women friends together and celebrate our moving bodies through space. And it was through that, oh, and young children too. I was the creative dance center for thousands of children in the community for, I would say, 15 years. And it was through that choice of creating that space. So imagine my children did not have a proper living room with a TV in it. It was one big empty room. And when people knocked on my door, they would always ask, "Are you moving?" And I would say, because it looked like I was moving. And I'm like, "I sure am. I move all the time."
But
And
then you go, but I hear you, but then you go from the dance in the environment and the world, suddenly you decide that this is Canada, North America movement, but there's a world out there, and suddenly you're off to Ghana, exploring not just the fun at home and the movement, but there's something that kicks in where, again, choice, saying, well, why not? I mean, who goes to Ghana to go and study African dance? That's another choice. So something's brewing here. Am I right?
yes, so something was brewing. And I would say that was definitely the springboard, is my separation and my need to build a new lifestyle. I could have easily gone into teaching because I'm a certified teacher. I have a master's in education and doctoral studies in curriculum development. So it appeared that that was going to be my trajectory. But instead, I thought I would create a space so I could nurture my children and work at the same time. And I actually began to really become intrigued with the development and the notion of why dance was so important in my life. And so I started studying all kinds of dance, this kind of deep pursuit to understand what is it with dance that is giving me meaning. And with that, I joined a West African dance ensemble, mentored and led by Mr. Professor Kwasi Dunyo from Dagbamati, Ghana. And I started following the diaspora, and I studied Afro-Cuban dance in Matanzas, Cuba. I went to Peru and I went to Lima and studied Peruvian Afrocentric dance, and Brazil to study Afro-Brazilian dance, the samba. And it was this love of people and community and rhythm. And I would, you know what it was? I'm just about to say it was the joy that was unleashed in a most unabashed, abandoned way when people danced together, that I felt I needed to do more. I needed to take this secret, sort of like a secret drink or secret code, and share it with my friends and share it with my community.
Well, it's kind of like this is what I'm saying. You know, you can look at one's resume, or you can look at, anyone can look at theirs and go, is there anything that joins these dots? And particularly in this time when you kind of look at it and go, I have all these things. How do I aggregate? Can I draw on things? Can I reframe? Clearly something is going. And then along the way for you, this idea of this big little caravan of joy emerges, and which we will talk about. But one of the first evidences of this charity and its passion took you to Tanzania, where some magic happen. And I like everyone to just take a quick look. This is a documentary. This is a little kind of a teaser of that documentary that won awards and so on. But I think it expresses what words can barely touch when they see how you were and what you did.
Well, we're a day away from concluding this program here at the orphanage, and I think to facilitate an experience for my children and for others in the art of compassion is imperative to shift consciousness and heal the world. Sounds a little intense and hokey, but it's so true. The amount of children, like 150 kids, crazy and chaotic. It all seems to unfold with a natural rhythm. Children are children, and children need to play, and children need to create.
So stressed out about everything. She has to calm down a bit. He just did something for someone else.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, okay, my fault. My family hates me.
That is so ridiculous.
There's a kid in all of us.
Well, I mean, you say a picture is 1,000 words, there's probably a million there. It's just the tip of an iceberg. This idea of a big little caravan of joy, which continues to today. Some would go, oh, great idea, Sarina, let's go. And then you find yourself with whom and with what? It's not like somebody came and said, oh, I think it's a great idea. Here's $1 million, go nuts. Were there mountains to climb, to create? I mean, I'm talking, when you looked at it from this perspective, it was, I have a dream, crazy idea. I've tasted what's possible. What am I going to do now? And you look at this and it's just insurmountable. As people, we face this. I mean, these are challenges. So you didn't go small and group and set up another home with a playroom. You went out there. So what obstacle, like what was the biggest challenge to do a charity on this line? I mean, how does one do this?
Yes. So actually what happened is when I was in Ghana with my mentor, Kwasi Dunyo, studying West African dance and drum, I had some time off and there was a small school in the village. And I would walk over there and watch the children in their tiny classrooms with no school supplies. And because I'm a dance and drama teacher for young children, I thought it would be a real easy way, authentic way to connect with the community through this methodology. I couldn't speak the Ewe language. So I entered the classroom. I asked the headmistress if I could run some little programs, and I started with the kindergartens, and we started with emotions like I'm sad, and they would all go I'm sad. And what happened is the entire school gathered around the window to watch this drama class, and I had to say I'm coming to each and every class, and I ended up going to each and every class teaching dance and drama, and it was such a hit that it started to make me wonder and think that this might be the perfect support system for educators in Africa, for children who are vulnerable, defined as vulnerable, living in challenging situations where they have no school supplies. And I honestly, Mark, was going to only do this one time. I thought I'm going to do this again. And I had a connection to Tanzania. It was going to be a one-shot deal. And I went to Tanzania, to Mbeya. I had no money. I did a little community fundraiser and raised $4,000. A friend of mine gave me $2,000, and I put the rest of it on my credit card. And it took me about 2 years to pay it off. And at the time I thought, wouldn't it be incredible to document how the arts actually impact the children at the orphanage? But when I got home with the footage, it wasn't so much about that. I wasn't, I would say, well versed enough in my craft, in implementing arts in Africa. I'm much better at it now. But what the film did profile was the impact and the effect it had on my children and us as a family. And so I was just very honest with the editing and really honest with the direction of the film. And it really profiles, in a way, white privilege. It also profiles how we as North Americans want to connect but struggle to connect. And it was through that documentary that a buzz started to happen. And I got to be known as the woman who does programming in Africa, which wasn't true. I'd only done it once. And then a woman by the name of Christy Harold approached me and she said, I know you run musicals for children. Would you be interested in running it for my community, which was Bedford Park in Toronto? And I said no, because I was so busy with my children and teaching dance and children's musical theater. And then she said, I will organize it for you. All you have to do is direct it and stage it. And I raised, I think, the first musical $10,000, which brought me to South Africa. And honestly, the rest is history. It just kept going and going and going.
No, but here's what's fascinating. You know, you have this dream and you're starting to piece it together. But if we go back to the roots, dancer, choreographer, okay, good, children would play, amazing. Suddenly you're fundraising. Suddenly you're administrating. Suddenly you're traveling and organizing. You're getting groups, you're getting cash. You found 3 theatrical groups, which generate, I've seen some of the productions and they're incredible. And the love of the work, there's so much we could talk about it. I mean, what I'm pointing out here is, well, and people have, you know, it's priceless. But my point with you and the point that I take from this is, while we think we might have one thing and we're focusing on the one thing, even to realize and dare to go past the money and just follow this dream, and then suddenly drawing on these skills you never thought you had and going the mile, that the driving thing behind it is this passionate determination to do something wonderful. I want to show a clip. It took you to Ghana, which, how many trips have you been to Ghana now with your program?
I think 10.
Oh, 10, only 10. Honestly, crazy. But let's take a look at, again, it's focused on these underprivileged or less advantaged, in addition to the orphanage things and all of that, that centered children's kind of approach to like improving conditions. If the children get it and those who help the children, you're really talking future. So let's take a look at something which, I mean, so much could be shown, but I think this sums it up beautifully.
This spring friend from Ghana. Oh, we have attended a wonderful workshop for 3 days. So wonderfully, so amazing. I like the show so much. And all the activities we have learned how to see the children with music and dance, play, and so on and so forth. In fact, the people from Canada, they are so amazing. Thank you. just had a wonderful, amazing workshop we just finished now. And thanks to SARINA CONDELLO for giving us the gift of working with kids. She has given us wonderful facilitation skills. I have been with SARINA since 2010. Up to now, she gives us energy. She gives us work to do with the kids. I'm really, really grateful for the gift she has.
Again, it says it all, but the way you organize it, again, just drawing on things, it wasn't just you delivering. You actually brought people. There was some empowerment and some way you managed to get a team going, help, which is in another scale because support. So what was that exactly? I mean,
well, I went through a real interesting transformation when I started working in Africa, and I almost see it as stages. My first stage was almost, look at me, here I am in Africa, and I'm doing programming. And if you look at the photos, I mean, even the documentary is a testament to this state of mind I had. Was I can't believe I'm here and I'm doing this work. But then the next stage was, wait a minute, what am I doing? Like, what am I actually implementing? Is what I'm implementing impactful? Is what I'm implementing effective? Do the children even relate to it? And does the community at large in the countries that I have visited resonate with it? And after about 3 years, I realized that I needed local artists and educators on the ground to actually integrate this program in their own language with their own games. And it really shifted the whole worldview. And it took it off of me, look at me in Africa, to look at them, look at what they're doing. And then the third stage was, how do I make this more sustainable? I can almost tell where a charity is in these stages. Look at me as you begin to direct to what am I actually implementing? Is this culturally relevant? Does this even connect to their government's curriculum? To how can we work with teams on the ground to make it sustainable? And so one of the ways I've made it sustainable is, of course, through the musicals, but I also was interested in giving teachers an opportunity to do this in their own classrooms. And I started with conferences. In 2009, I did a conference for 350 childcare workers in South Africa. PEPFAR helped. Childhood Now was a full supporter of this. And from that concept, I have been implementing with my incredible teams these conferences throughout the continent of Africa. Wow. And just recently, I've pulled together community mentors, members, educators to come with me. They're not volunteers. I'm not really big into volunteerism. What I say, in fact, is you're going to be bearing witness to all the accomplishments that these people have made on the ground, and you are going to support them in a way that will empower and impact their next year. So I make it really, really clear. You're not a volunteer. You are here to bear witness to their amazing lives. We're guests in their village or in their community because they already know what to do. And let's be very clear. African people, Indigenous people, are the first people on this planet to deeply understand how the arts, in particular, drama, music, singing, dancing, and visual arts, can transcend our humanity and create an immediate connection to our divinity.
Incredible. Well, along that lines, all of that is happening, all of that you've created, and then bang, come February, March, you look at all of this, no more theater stage possible, no more travel possible. There's a moment where you think, what now? And you went through something, obviously, as people are and have, in terms of, I got all this energy, I've got these people want me, what do I do? Some people take the opportunity to re-examine, self-reflect. Others just I'll do more of same, I'll do this. You didn't do that. Something hit where you, I believe, went into a downer. Many have, in terms of, for a moment, where you go, it's all like, I imagine it's going to come back, but it wasn't. In another month, and another month, and another month, and there you are in your space, and you had a choice. There was an impossible, obvious barriers. You did something about it.
Well, first of all, that empty space that I have in my house is an alternative reality for me, for sure. There is an author, I think his name is David Willincott, and he writes about play. And the reason why I want to bring up play is because I have this space. So I started to do what I love, which is dance. And he says that when we play, it brings about our truest, authentic self. So if you see a young child playing, and I'm not talking about playing a sport, that is completely different. I mean playing, like imagining they're in a big refrigerator box and they're in a rocket ship and they really feel like they're going to outer space. That expression is their most true, authentic self. And I will even say it almost, that play space lays down the seeds for future thinking. That is really interesting. Yes, it's like when I'm playing, when I'm mucking about, when I'm dancing, one, I'm my truest self. And two, at the same time and unbeknownst to me, I am planting seeds for my future self. And so then what happens is this alchemy. And I don't want to make it sound so esoteric or mystical or magical. I mean, definitely there's an aspect to that. But what happens is, for me, so I'm in my space, I'm dancing, I'm like, I really didn't drop down into a depression, because I'm like, I'm just going to get, I actually started feeling bad for my community, and I started improv classes online, and then I'm like, I need to keep them dancing. It was out of a generous gesture. And as I was moving and putting up dance classes on Facebook Live, and I have a secret Sunday dance class on Sundays, it is almost as if these secret ideas started coming into my space. And by the way, they were always connected to me, because when I play, I am whole. And when I'm playing and whole, I am planting seeds for my future self. And so without me pivoting, like, what am I going to do? Or going in survival mode, oh my gosh, it's over. Because truly, there was zero income, and all my programs were held at a standstill. And I don't want to say I just got up and started to dance. That's not really how it was. I started to do what made me feel me, like made me really feel like, this is SARINA. I'm going to reach out and start dancing. And from that, ideas and my community started rolling right at my feet, started seeping through my window cracks. These ideas, creative ideas, started coming through under the door. And I didn't even have to ask. It almost like quietly tapped me on the shoulder. And if I could describe it, it's like I could hear the whisper 2 rooms back in my head. But it wasn't until I just held space that new ideas came. Jodie Scotchmore and I started working on a kids TV show, which actually came from my yearning and desire to support parents. I was hearing terrible stories about parents going through COVID and being locked up in their homes. So my son and I started this little, actually, Jade, this little puppet's right here. It was supposed to go to Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland. I couldn't bring it. I called my son and we started doing this Zoom class for little children 3 to 6.
Well, we fortunately, true to you capture these moments, like you are of this generation. And I think I just want to, what you're talking about is getting back to roots, getting back to, and this is a time of reflection where we can all relate to this, where you have all these things going, but it sounds like you just said, fundamentally grounded, what is it at core that I'm about? And let's take a look at, like you, in the last little few months, you actually, bless you, recorded this, one piece of many. And I just want to show everybody, because I think, once again, it just captures what you decided to do.
I'm SARINA CONDELLO.
And my name's Quentin Bitko.
I honestly started working on creative ideas a week into quarantine. It was a random ask, but I said, Quentin, do you want to do this little kids puppet show with me? It's all based on dance. He said yes, we got together, and now we're 3 lessons into it, and we have a following of about 80 children.
I'm not sure how many people get to work with their parents, or let alone do something so fun and creative like this. It's something that I'll hold dear to my heart forever.
I literally go downstairs, get my props, get my costumes, and I can create a 15-minute dance experience in about an hour for my friends and for their friends and their friends. And it's just one way of me giving back to my community, supporting my community during these really trying times.
That for me is really important. You sort of have to figure out what you can do. And for me, if it's putting on a puppet, I mean, that's what I'll do.
Amazing, beautifully shot and designed.
Yes, I want to just give a shout out to the director of that mini doc, Julian Peter. He came in with a camera. He just loved what my son and I were doing, and he shot and edited that little measured moment. So thanks, Julie.
Well, I want to do something now. It's kind of fun. It's a little, you are so spontaneous, and we could talk for hours, but I love what just comes out. Like when you're talking, you just like say the spirit of play opens new thinking, and we're all about new thinking. Boy, we need it more than ever. So let's take a moment and let me ask you some questions, because I think it's fun. No. So old think, okay? Old think is dealing with or being told about your limitations, right? And you've had a few of those growing up. Maybe some people, parents, friends saying, I don't think, and stick to dancing, and it's tough out there and whatever. You would agree? We carry those things. But what we're hearing is new think that you don't think you have any limitations. Well, how do you respond to that? Obviously, you disagree with old think, and you're into a new idea about so in a phrase or two, you would say, like, how do you even come up with that idea? Where do you just go, why not? Or whatever comes to mind with you.
Oh my gosh, that's a really hard question for me to answer, a real hard question, I should say. How do I come up with because, in some ways you're absolutely correct. Thinking can get in the way. Thinking actually can trigger an old response to all the belief systems that we've been told. And trust me, as a woman and as an aging woman, I have so many of them that run through my head. You're too old, you're not good enough. How would anybody even want that from you? You don't have enough. I could go on. And actually, I was with a very good friend of mine, Vivian, and she was taking me through this process of all of the messages that we have been led to believe. As a mother, I need to do this. As a wife, I need to do that. And as an artist, I should be doing this. And this heavy belief system can really dictate and almost put you in a rut, and you can't get out of it. So, okay, I'm trying to answer your question. It's almost as if I'm emptying out. I'm unlearning what was learned. I try to operate without my head because I trust in the unknown. I trust that there's abundance for everybody. There's enough for all, especially creative people. You know, I've been developing with my good friend a platform for seniors so that they can feel healthy and well and strong. It's going to be called Sassafit because I've run a vintage dance class for almost 20 years. A group of women, mostly Jewish women, now they're all 85. They've been dancing with me since they were 65, and now they're locked in their homes. And I started this platform out of necessity. Now, if you saw what's online, there are a gajillion of them.
I know.
And if I looked at that and said, I better not do this because they're better than me and there's already so much out there, this project, which is going to be amazing, would come to a standstill. But I have the belief that there's enough for all, and we can abundantly, we can reach for the abundance that is out there. And what we create has a place. Absolutely. It has a place and a particular demographic, whether it's GJ or whether it's my vintage dancers.
Well, then I'm going to go right to, because we have some questions that are kind of singular answers at the end, that, again, I just, the way you describe, you just thrown away all those considerations. And we all, in terms of now more than ever, people are telling us you really have to stick low, you have to save, you have to do, you shouldn't, be careful, whatever. There's an environment or a meme operating that could cause contraction. And you obviously disagree 100%. So here's some questions for you, okay? So given all of that, looking at the thread of your life, big opening to the question, but a very simple answer. What would you state as your true purpose? How would you define it as simply as possible? First thought that comes to mind, because you said it so beautifully.
My true purpose is to bring all ages and stages through an experience where they can express, so they can really understand what authentic joy is.
Beautiful. If you could share one truth that you hold sacred to all of us, one truth, among many, but one truth, what would it be?
That this is all a game, and and that when we get quiet and if we trust and if we play our most holistic and authentic selves will emerge. What did that sound like?
Beautiful, consistent, and aligned with the purpose. So you're on it. So therefore, the next one is, if you could give more of yourself to something, what would it be?
I would give more of myself. This is going to sound crazy, but maybe to me. I'm constantly being of service. Sometimes I forget about me. And so I'm I'm sharing all this information because I need to hear it.
I
That
love
is the
it.
truth. What I'm saying to all of you out there is what I need to hear too. I'm not a master at this. I'm still learning, and I need to listen to my own words.
Beautiful. And if you could change one thing that you feel would have the most impact, one thing, impact on you, your community, and the world, if you could change one thing, what would it be?
If I could change the fear in people, that fear that keeps them from reaching for the stars or for tapping into their hearts or reaching out to someone, and the fear in me as well, I think we would be in a much more open and authentic space where we could see each other truly face to face as how we're showing up. So I would love to transmute and dissolve the fear that we're all carrying.
It's hard to top these things. I mean, you know, I love the thing about self. I think those like you and those that we will be dealing with throughout this thing, it's really interesting. They give tremendously. And what we tend to not think about, what kind of goes on automatic, because that's our reflex, is the giving, not the getting. And to the person, you exemplify this. If I say to you, old think being, let's just be realistic. God, we hear this all the time, right? And then the new think being, and you obviously demonstrated, is let's create the impossible. And what you're doing, even in these times and place, demonstrating. You express it beautifully. I have a few moments if those listening wish to ask or not. And we have plenty we can talk about, but I open it up. It is a conversation. It's a conversation with you to them and they to you. I'm just here enjoying it because you are inspirational. And what you do and things that have been coming in here are just saying that it has been such a grounded experience with the work you do. And that others are feeling that you are a loving mother to us all. One said, and you'll love it and you'll blush, Saint Sarina. Okay, you come from a Catholic background, I guess that's cool. And others are just saying that the many, many gifts that you have provided. And one of the points you touched on that I think is so relevant today, and we hear it so often, is I think it's a time to pivot. You know, I have to do something else. I have to readjust. I have to react. I have to respond. And they're looking outside for how they, not to be proactive, but reactive, say, oh, I better go online because people will buy my stuff better, or I better change my brand, and what I'm hearing from you is, what's wrong with plan A? Why not go back and examine what moves you, what touched you, what playfully ignited you when you were younger or in your teens or as you developed your own type of, life. And coming to that moment of self-reflection and self-realization, which everybody talks in many, many words, the fact is it's very real. You demonstrate how real it is. And from that center, you can look out. And things change when you change. It's a very old Eastern, now increasingly Western idea that, Buddha was saying it's an illusion and so on. What can be translated to me is how the world is how we see the world. I see, therefore I am, I perceive, therefore I am type of thing. Or somehow looking at through a lens that we feel is very solid. And clearly, you're not even wearing glasses right now. You just smashed that and you just said, whatever. So a question has come up here, which is, what has moved you most in all of your outreach? It's a big question, but it's a beautiful question.
Well, I mean, it generally is how people are transformed by an art expressive moment, like to the people in Toronto, you know, CEOs crying at the end of a play because they have had the courage to create, to a teenager who is under my tutelage and can't believe that she or he just ran their own session. Like that kind of transformation really moves me. But there is one experience that I will never, ever forget. And it was in 2009 in South Africa. And I put on a show with all the orphans, and there were no parents there because at that time they had all unfortunately perished because of AIDS.
Oh my.
And the only people there were the grandparents. And we put on this show. There were maybe like 10 of them, big grandmothers in their Zulu hats. It was so amazing. And I was just doing what I was doing. And then when it was over, all the grandmothers stood up and they surrounded me and they started singing in 4-part harmony. Thank you. And and then the children started hugging my legs and hugging my Teen Joy South Africa's. Like, I will never forget that gratitude. And they just said, thank you for not forgetting about us. That left an indelible mark on my heart forever. So there's two things, generally how this work really transforms people. And then that one moment in time in 2009 in Christianenburg.
Beautiful. There's some beautiful, I mean, I think you got a family out here watching you. I mean, you just, you know, we obviously got our 6 feet of, you know, distancing here. We got no distancing here, actually. And I don't think anybody's feeling at all removed or distanced from anything you're saying whatsoever.
Thank you, everybody.
There's some beautiful things here. One is obviously, and it's to the point of, is this being recorded so they can share it with others because they have benefited so much from your classes? Yes, this will be a library recording and you will be alerted to how you can participate because people want to share your words. Because as you said to me earlier before we got on about, you have never shared your philosophy and yet you live it every day, which is, I think to your point, you know, thinking about yourself to that answer, like what would you do more time to yourself? There's a beautiful question here about how can somebody support your work, which is, well, so how can they get in touch with you, support your work? What would be the easiest way to
Well,
connect?
if they're interested in supporting my work, they can always email me and we can have, because there's many different ways to do so. And I can most certainly have a conversation with them on how they would like to support it.
This is Big Little Caravan of Joy.
Yes.
That would be, because I was asked, the name of it is, it's got its initials, but it's Big Little Caravan of Joy.
Yes.
And moving on, I mean, we could be answering all these things. These are beautiful things. In terms of, I love these questions because I never know your answer. In terms of creative projects, what are you dreaming of next?
Oh, I'm dreaming of the 2 things I talked about, this TV series for young children to empower them through the spirit of dance and play and to make them feel so good about who they are. My methodology in creative dance really allows the young creative spirit to shine because children's inherent nature is really to delight in movement. And then secondly is to see my SASAFIT platform really support the seniors around the world that are going to be isolated. I really want to create a community so we engage them. So in some ways, it's our tiny people, our youngest people on the planet, and our oldest. I really want to invest my time in them for the next little while.
It's beautiful. An obvious question, and I think we're all wondering, like, what keeps your energy high? Like, how do you manage to do this? You know, you just don't stop.
No.
You know, so I don't know. Is it a diet? Is it just life infused in you, or what is it?
I don't know. I think it's personality for sure. Dancing and my beautiful community and being playful, humor. Like I love laughing and I love turning things upside down, as my close friends know. But it's just, I think also as we get older, we get a little bit more, hopefully a little bit, well, I have been getting more joyful. And I was just born with a tremendous amount of energy. It's sort of like in my body.
Well, indeed so, obviously through dance and movement. And clearly your things have not taken you to Africa and all around the world. You've gone north to indigenous communities, northern territories. There's wonderful footage. We'll have to do part 2, I guess. I mean, you have so many people you've touched. One of the things that was most moving was a woman that said, thanks to you in the program, she saw a life ahead, that she knew from a career point of view what she could do, that there was a growth opportunity. Somebody opened the door. I mean, those things are priceless. There's a thank you from a 74-year-old vintage dancer. You would know who that is. As I wrap up with you, because your words are beautiful. I mean, it's touched everybody. What, from a point of advice, let's just use the word advice, to people trying to, yes, you do what you do, but they sit where we started with these times and places. If you had to say one advice piece to everybody that will see this, seeing it now, and we'll see it from your lips to their ears, you would say?
I would quote Bob Marley. Don't you worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be all right. Everything is gonna be all right. And if it's not all right, it means it hasn't found its resolution. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this, and everything is gonna be all right. So don't you worry about a thing.
Sarina, thank you. It's a privilege. You have inspired. You are inspiring. I appreciate your time. Carrying on, as they say. So it's been a joy. Speaking of.
Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to all the listeners and all the beautiful comments. You really made my day. Thank you.
Welcome. And I would like to, by the way, at this point, introduce, behind a curtain like Wizard of Oz, that people behind the Think8 team, the researchers, the Kylies, the Maureen's, the Nancy's, my wife, people, all of the Susans, and Brendan, our magic man, who sits there. As simple as this may appear, this is his platform that literally reaches thousands. And he designed it, and it makes it possible to bring the video seamlessly, etc. And he's wearing a really nice shirt today, so I really want to congratulate him.
Oh, you guys
and
are
all
great.
of this. And I want to leave you all, as we say goodbye, with a thought so inspired from what she said. You'll see it on the screen. Thank you for all of it. You will have this recorded, and you can share it with your friends, family. Sarina, again, a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Bye-bye.